welcome to our channel. I'm so glad you've joined us.
We've created this to help you on your journey. No matter what part of it you might be in, training or learning, it's here to help you out.
And I'm happy to demonstrate.
You're a little guinea pig, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is our 4th podcast now.
Seems like so many more.
And we're excited because, what do you mean? Greg's always so upbeat. You're like the Eeyore of podcast.
Oh, no, it's these, I don't know whether you guys realize, these actually take a long time. I put a lot of preparation into these podcasts. I sit down for hours doing notes.
Nice.
Studying.
So today we're talking about how to make your social media work. And we thought we'd start off with why do athletes or horse riders actually even need social media?
A very different world, isn't it? I mean, I guess when we were starting out, social media wasn't very big at all. Whereas now it's very much a shop window for your business. And if you don't have it, I guess it's like trying to sell a house and not advertising it. Who's going to buy a secret? So it's a shop window. It's like David Jones not having things on display when you walk in the shop and you go, well, I want to buy this, but there's nothing there to see. So it's a very new world of training horses and having something out there to work for you.
Well, and even the clients that you already have, like the branding of saying, oh, there's my coach or there's my trainer doing well. So that's an important side of it also.
It is. It's a booster for your existing clients. I guess it makes them feel more a part of something that is successful.
It is also an atomic bomb. There are many things that we're going to talk about in the next podcast as well about how to cope with the trolling and the feeling of being in a glass bowl and a lot of people watching you, which I know that a lot of the younger people, it really bothers them. From the era that we're from, where we used to have to pay to advertise riding lessons in the newspaper, we pay a fortune to have a landline installed at the stable so that we wouldn't miss out on business coming in. We'd advertise in magazines, calendars, and, we're constantly saying, this is the product we have to sell.
So we just send faxes.
We did.
Fax machine.
Well, you were fancy. I didn't have a fax machine in my stable, but now the fanciest thing we do now is send an email occasionally, which I'm sorry for any of you try to email me. I answer my emails once a week, but I do get them all answered. So there's a lot of different forums for social media. So you've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and there's probably more. They're the only ones that I know of.
And they've all got their own messaging service, haven't they, on them? Like, people say, I message you on this, and they go, just send me a text message. Like,
I think I've developed ADHD as I've gotten older. So I go to messages, Messenger, WhatsApp. There's so many more. Email, then there's the Instagram messenger, then there's the TikTok messenger. So that's 6 right there that I try to answer everybody. If you do message me on Instagram. That's the one that I definitely try and answer every day or two. Anyway,
see, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Facebook for me. I love Facebook.
Well, and that brings us to the next point. All the social media are very, very different. So what sells or does well on Facebook doesn't necessarily do well on Instagram. What does well on Instagram doesn't necessarily do well on TikTok. So
it's a bit age orientated, isn't it?
So TikTok's for your younger demographic.
Yeah.
I know that Andy introduced me to TikTok, and then Instagram's, you're up to 40s, and then Facebook is the next
40 most.
I know, I'm trying not to say, 50, but
Facebook is for people around 30.
But, for instance, on Facebook, I can share really fun, longer stories and people read it because people from our generation love the in-depth of reading. We love to get to know people. We love to talk. Instagram, a one-line caption. Nobody gives shit, just shiny real. And TikTok.
Short and sweet.
TikTok. I started using TikTok because you're able to load.
Isn't TikTok just all songs and dances?
Well, yes, but TikTok allowed us to load longer videos. So if somebody said to me, oh, my horse is bolting, what do I do? And this is how we actually got into social media in the first place, by accident. And I couldn't send them the videos, they were too long, but I could load, up to an hour's video on TikTok, maybe longer. I don't know what you can put on TikTok. So that's why we started using it. And then all of a sudden we started getting this big following of people who appreciated the knowledge. Some people can't afford to buy it. Some people just find it interesting. And then our social media accounts just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we discovered the side benefits of it, which are that we do have a product to sell. So we have our e-learning website.
I do have the TikTok app on my phone.
Do you, Greg? That's very modern of you. We have our shop with our training aids and our gloves. So we learnt just by accident, by helping people, that it actually is helpful for us as well. I know at the last show that there was a lot of talk that they thought the judges were on the phone and scrolling on socials. Do you think that having a big image as a horse rider can affect the judges' scores?
Oh, you've got to say yes, because if you're, yes, and I've heard that story before where, judges.
And this is why we have Greg on the show, because he's
Judges
never politically correct.
Judges have been caught out being on Facebook and stuff during competitions in all disciplines. And look, I do believe there's politics involved in any sport. Doesn't matter what you're in, and there is certainly an element of politics in anything. Sometimes it's not so much politics it's meant to be. It could just be that person's got such a good social media coverage and face, and they're always on there, and they always seem to be helping people, and always maybe seem to be a nice person. Maybe then a judge might look at that and go, "Oh, that's a nice person. Oh, I recognise them off Facebook."
Well, recognition, look, I liken it to, I don't think it affects the judges' scores. Greg and I often at disagreements over stuff. I can see your point though, but I remember when we were at school, my older sister was very academic and very good at school. I was very lucky that I found school very easy. I didn't find being away from the horses easy, but I found the actual work easy. When I first we went to private school for year 11 and year 10, 11 and 12. And my older sister had already been there for a year. And when the teachers met me, the expectation that I was a good student was already there. So I wasn't.
Because of your sister.
Because of my sister. So I would hand in an essay. I don't know if it's things such as essays these days anymore. But anyway, I would hand in my work and I would start on a top score. And all I had to do was keep it, because the expectation that I was as clever as my sister was already there. And I wonder if social media can
You could have been a real dumb shit and still scored her all right.
No, because if the work was crap, you lose a mark. So it's like presentation for a beautiful dressage horse. A rider comes up to the judges with the nice gear, fits well, beautifully polished, saying to the judges, "My turnout is a sign of respect to you." And then you're starting with, say, 65%, because the judges think, right, she could be somebody with all the gear and no idea, but the turnout shows that she has respect for it.
So that's a similar thing you're talking about, because you're talking about an appearance. So you're saying the well-presented person to a judge is going to score naturally higher than the person that comes in.
No, I'm saying you start off on with a good expectation, and then it's up to you to keep it. But I've seen lovely athletic horses and riders score really well, and I thought, oh my goodness, your jodhpurs could be 3 sizes smaller, and you could have brushed your horse a little better, but what I mean is that I think that sometimes social media can give the judges an expectation of what they're going to see. Mm-hmm. So then they sit up a little bit and think, oh, here comes such and such, because they have quite a decent social media presence.
So you're swerved by politics.
No. So I don't think that, but I wonder.
But you just said that there's an expectation. So when a judge sees somebody ride up,
yeah, but then you don't keep it. If you do a shite test, then you still go bang, bang, bang. They just love to cut those marks.
Yeah, but it's a bit easier starting up there, isn't it, than starting down here and have to work your way up. If you're up there already, and the judge is like, well, yeah, I'll give you.
Yeah, but this is a touchy subject because you're a dad. Greg used to wear the rubber boots and his coat was too big. You were a dad.
My rubber long boot Eagles.
Yeah, well, we all wore them, didn't we? But you were just very good looking, so you could wear anything you wanted. But Greg's one of those people that will wear the most hideous outfit. And poor Andy and I, we suffer, Greg. But we'd say, go back in. You can't wear like he'd wear shorts with black Explorers and ankle high boots. It's just like,
I
so
was told it was summertime, it was hot, and I should wear shorts. So I did.
anyway,
But
we're not into getting to you then.
so I wore
Greg's style.
work
fire.
socks.
And Kamalo.
Work socks. It was sneakers. What's wrong with that? Anyway, we've already proved that social media does influence sometimes on different
No,
things.
really.
So, Cecile, and look, that's a bit of a joke aside, because she is very successful at it. She's got an amazing amount of followers, and she's self-taught. Interesting enough, so we've come into the social media thing
By accident.
not by accident so much, we had to do it. We had to build our business. You had to do it. To sell our shop stuff, selling them, we had to have social media. So, Shell, as somebody that's coming from the ground roots of someone that you didn't go and do a course at university or anything like that about how to become a social media person. You have studied all the way through to the point where now you have large companies from all over the world approaching you all the time to do advertising for them and stuff. How did you start out? Like how
did you build a social media for that?
I didn't. I mean, I remember you having a Facebook page for a long time, and then I was laid up sick of something for a while, and I started a Facebook page. I've got about 50 followers or something like that. I mean, but talking to someone's got like now, I think 100-something thousand followers on different things, with 1,000 on YouTube this morning. How did you start out, and give us an idea of how you built it up a little bit? Because I mean, I see you. And it's got to the point now, so I'll give you an idea, guys. Shell workday is, she's up in the morning. She'll usually check stuff in the morning first up as well, because she gets a lot of stuff coming in from overseas. This morning she had a phone call from one of her English friends, 6 a.m. And then she'll start meditation-wise. Then she'll go and do horses. She'll be teaching most of the day, come back up. And if I waited in the house in the afternoon for Shell to get dinner, I would eat till 10 o'clock. So it's now become, I'm a bit of a
modern marriage.
House husband. It's very modern marriage. So I've now become a bit more of I've taken out a lot more of the house duty and with my surgery as well. So
just as it should be, ladies, right?
So but I watch her every night time, and she'll do around, it used to be 1 to 2 hours. Now it's probably 3 or 4 hours of different things to do with social media. So you can tell us a little bit about what you do with that, but tell us how you first sort of started out a bit on how you found social media when you first started it.
Okay. So I did, it exploded when I started being completely me. So I think it's really important that if you're going to, there's a private part of you that only Greg and Andy know about me. And some of you have seen little glimpses of that. But
if you want to know, just ring me. I'll tell you everything.
But so as much as we put a lot of our life on social media, we do keep it private. But to build a good social media, it has to be about you, because if you copy off anybody else, then it's not different and it's not authentic anymore. And you can't keep it up. It's a lot like hard work.
What's very true is we've seen a few pages over the years that have started to grow quite well. And then you see all of a sudden the content sort of change and you go, that's not that person anymore. That's not them.
That often. And it can change too, because the pressure of the trolling and people's expectations can really get to people. Fortunately for me, I'm a little older. Let's not get into that hole. But I like me and I like what I do. We came from the direction that we wanted to help people, because I found the beginning with my dressage career, I felt incredibly alone. I felt very lost. And I promised myself if I ever got any good at dressage, which I vowed that I would be, I wanted to help people. I remember getting ready, my stallion, getting him ready for his first state championships or nationals, one of those. And he got pointed out of that level and couldn't compete. And I sort of thought to myself, wow, I wish that the coach that I went to all the time maybe had mentioned that if you keep winning like this, you're not going to be in the prelim or the novice or whatever it was anymore. And of course, you can't qualify in time. And it was just a very crisp moment of I am completely alone and I don't know what I'm doing. And so whenever people have questions, or my own students, I really try to guide them. But I think the beginning of starting a social media page is to ask yourself why you're doing it, right? So for most young people and then people my age, there's going to be a different reason, but mostly it's because you have something to sell. So you either want to sell yourself as an athlete, so a brand that other brands are going to want to dress and use, or you want to sell, in our case, the training aids and the website. So the way that social media actually makes you money is that people see what you're doing, they think it's fun, they think it's educational, whatever. And then they think, oh, she's written a book, or, oh, she's selling those pottery kits, or whatever it is. So there's lots of ways to monetize your socials, but the beginning of it is why you're doing it. And then you can start to curate your page around that.
So and I know so you've done all your own content, you've written all your own content, and even, things like these podcasts, you do all that. It's not written for us or anything, is it? We don't pay anybody to do any of this stuff.
No, and it's usually based around who has sent us a message saying, could you show me how to monetize my social media? Or could you help me with my horse who's doing such and such? And I think that when you're trying to create a brand around yourself, it's really important that you realize that that's just the business side of you. That isn't who you are, because if it becomes who you are and really, really important, I think it can get very ugly and very, very painful, especially for young people, because, I can put something up and, 25,000 people will love it and 2,000 people will violently hate my guts over it because, I've got a noseband on or whatever. And you just have to, understand that people that violently opposed to something and are really rude to you are just projecting what's on the inside. So it doesn't bother me. It's unpleasant, but it doesn't worry me. And that it's just business. It doesn't come into our home. We tend to, when we're videoing and that sort of stuff, it all just becomes part of what we're doing. I'll shout out to Greg, I'm on this horse. I think it'll really help that lady. Can you come down and video it? As we become more popular and Greg is able to move away from having so many horses in training and that sort of stuff, we do have to have a bit more structure to it, because we've made a lot of commitments to our sponsors, which are really, really important to us. And that brings me to my next point. A lot of sponsored riders do not fulfill their commitments to the company.
It's interesting you should say, Cheryl, because even like the couple of companies that I've managed for over the years, and when I came onto the companies, or even companies I'm looking at for possible working with, I go into what their sponsored rider list is. And I know two of the companies I've done so far, I've gone into their sponsored riders and gone, okay, well, you've got some really top-notch riders here that could be doing a good job for you. What do they do for you? Mm-hmm. And all they've done is they sort of ran around trying to find someone, or these guys like, oh, I want some free gear. And, I know one sponsored rider I had rang me up one day and said, I need some couple of colours of this. And I went, but you've given me nothing. Like, what's the deal here? And they said, oh, yeah, no, the contract I signed was that I got this free stuff. I didn't have to do anything for you. So it's interesting because
I need to help you with the contract. So.
Oh, well, and then I stopped it all. I put on a group of my own sponsored riders then from that. And it was interesting. I know the one year I did it at Equitana, I rang them all up. I said, okay, your time for me is half an hour in my booth at Equitana to come and visit with me. And a few of them questioned me. I said, well, hey, if you want to still be on our sponsored riders.
That companies need you. It's
really important. And I read a lot of the contracts that we get offered for sponsoring, and it's very simple. It's normally like one post a week and turning up any trades.
They're very generous.
Very generous. And I used to think back, wow, these people, and you look at their profiles, and they're not doing anything for their companies.
I think we actually need to do a podcast, my Irish, on sponsorship. How to approach your sponsors, how to look after them, and vice versa for the companies.
How to take care of these companies.
It's a two-way street. I mean, I know a lot of companies are offering sponsorships that are basically just getting people to buy more on a little tiny percentage off. And a lot of the girls that work with us are signing them, and they're actually not getting a whole lot out of it. And I know it can happen the other way too. So I think that your social media, that is one way of monetizing your social media, of getting great sponsors. And it's a very important part of the industry all feeding itself and looking after each other.
It is, but you've got to, guys, just on that point, just be very careful. Don't just think I'm going to get these sponsors to, give me stuff, because it's vitally important for the industry, for the rest of the world, for the rest of the riders, is to make sure you do take care of your sponsors very well and make sure you do the right thing by them. Because if you do the wrong thing by them, they're going to drop you, and they're probably going to look at how they're not, how it's cost them to take care of other riders. So do take care. And I know Rochelle spends a lot of time taking care of all of her sponsors, and they're very happy.
And we did our first sponsored riders this year.
Yeah.
And we had thousands and thousands and thousands of riders apply. It was so hard to choose. And we ended up, instead of the 3 that we were originally going to choose, I think we ended up choosing over 20.
Mm.
And out of that 20, 4 riders have fulfilled their commitments. 4. Some never looked after a company. So outside of, Rochelle and Greg, we have Equine Evolution. And so I think that definitely stops us from, we'll be much choosier next time, and certainly won't re-sponsor the riders that have done nothing for the company.
No, and the couple that have, we've got a couple out there that are just doing an amazing job there, and they're always seeing these stories and stuff on Instagram. I check that.
So it is a great way to monetize your social media by being a sponsored rider or sponsoring other riders. When you're looking at riders to sponsor, you don't need to choose the most elite athletes. So, no. There's a difference between an influencer and an athlete who has earned the right to influence you. There's two different things. And in today's day and age, the two are just as powerful. One is as powerful as the other.
I quite often get questioned by companies, Greg, what do you think? Could we take this person on as a sponsored rider? And the first thing I say to them is, well, have you looked at their socials to see how powerful and how present they are? It's surprising. A lot of people ask for sponsorship and they're not doing anything on socials. I mean,
as much as, I would absolutely love to talk and have the advice of, my favorite Olympic rider. If they're never going to post, something we're saying at the beginning of the podcast, unfortunately, if you're not using your social media, you don't stay current. And that's not to say that you can't still win gold medals or get the soccer championship or anything else. But if you want to make money other than the wages within your sport, if you want to build a big brand, you're going to need to become very, very savvy at digital marketing.
Very.
That brings us to, if you do need to know, just bullet point on how to monetize your socials, you can literally Google it. There's a million companies selling it.
Incredible.
But one of the really...
people making money, telling you how to make money.
And we're always happy to help too. We are going to release a bullet point course, probably in the next 6 weeks, which I hope is going to be very simple and incredibly affordable to help you make some money. But how to use your social media is another big topic that I'd like to get into.
Yeah.
I know that I've said to Andy, if I ever find you doing a selfie in the mirror in the bathroom, your phone's confiscated. But I mean, what young people see as normal, dancing around in your knickers in front of the mirror with the phone, like I just look at that and think, oh my God, what are you doing?
How's that normal?
Well, it is. And that's why you've got to decide your demographic.
The fitness thing, that's a different thing. So we're not talking about the fitness people that, are showing how fit they're getting. And
well, I think it's age relative. So what Andy finds funny, what Andy thinks is cool is going to be very different to what we think. But I think just find somewhere in the middle. I mean, I'm not going to stand and lip sync. You're just never going to get me to do it. I can't. It's not authentic to me. Don't want to do it. Feel silly. Can't be bothered with that. But Andy and all her friends have always done it. It's how they've grown up. They used to go, I didn't send Andy to it, but there were kids. Andy and I'd be off doing, cello classes and what I thought was, classical way to raise a child. And one of my friends was taking her daughter to TikTok classes. I said, what do you mean? And she said, yep, she's doing TikTok classes, how to do the dances and it's a whole new world. Anyway, there are a couple of big don'ts on your social.
Oh, yeah.
So
here's one. Don't complain. Don't get on there and start whinging about things.
Yeah.
people want to hear honesty. Fair enough.
And they want to have a voice.
That you want to have a voice, but be careful. It's not all doom and gloom. Oh, such and such is a terrible thing, or uh, abusive language.
Yeah. Well, your sponsors don't want you.
Your sponsors. If you're after people to help, if you're looking at monetizing your socials and you want to be someone that's looked upon to be someone that's popular on socials, someone that's doing okay. I mean, look, I know there's one guy in the States at the moment who swears like a brewery worker, and he is quite renowned for doing it. I saw something the other day. He was sitting there reading out his hate mail. That was part of his socials, reading out hate mails.
Oh, wow.
And he named the person something. Beverly says, you're a vulgar mouth person, and that was part of his socials.
Wow.
But honestly, you're not going to get. I mean, he's retired now, so it doesn't really matter. But you're not going to get a good following. So you'll drop a lot of people who don't want to listen to that stuff to start with. You won't get to support.
And why is that so? Because the thing is,
there's a time and a place.
Well, there is, but also scientific studies and have discovered that we're increasing our dopamine when we're scrolling. So when you see somebody that's like Eeyore,
Dopamine.
Greg and I just really need to get on the
Can you get on a tablet form or what?
Yes, you definitely can. Well, I think so anyway. Maybe not.
Increasing your dopamine by scrolling.
So you're making yourself happy. It's an addiction. Scrolling is an addiction. You can be as addicted to it, numbs you out. So scrolling makes you feel that you can cope a little better. And unfortunately, if you're a doom and gloomer, people are going to scroll straight past you, then the algorithms miss you, and that's that. That doesn't mean that you can't be real and say that you had a tough day
Hang
or
on.
a crap show.
She jumps ahead because she says stuff like that, and I'm like, hang on a second, what do you mean by that? So the algorithm will start avoiding you. What happens on social media, guys, is if you start doing things that aren't popular, social media starts sliding you down the list, so you don't get seen as much. That's what that means when she talks about the algorithm.
Oh, okay.
What it will do, so if you're seen as being a person that's not liked, or you don't get as many likes and things like that, you don't get as many presses and buttons and views and all that sort of stuff, your page will actually start to slide from visibility. So
even if you don't post often enough.
You don't post often enough. If you're vulgar, if you do this, you do that. If you do things that it's not looked upon as being nice, social media will slide your viewings away from you. So
I don't know about that. If you're if you're sensational and everybody's like, oh, it's terrible, and there's some really funny people on TikTok that swear their heads off and they're extremely popular.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about athletic brands. We're not talking about people that are hilarious and, say, so there's two.
There are athletes out there that think they're hilarious.
Yeah, well, you're pretty funny. Yeah. So what were we talking about before we got onto algorithms? Because I think it was important. Oh, not putting on too much negative content.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the next point is then when to post and all about the algorithms and all that kind of stuff.
When to post? Like, when you've got 5 minutes to spare, you sit down and you make a post.
No, well, so this is the thing.
When you're having a cup of tea in the morning, you make a post.
That is generally what we do. If you're really serious, we just do it when we have time. If you don't post frequently enough, you'll start to slide.
But there are hot times, aren't there?
Yeah, and your apps will actually tell you. So when you look in your notifications about, comments and trolls and whatever, it will actually, you can go in your settings to it, and we can show you all that if you need to know. And they tell you, for instance, we are the most popular on a Monday night, their figure, Tuesday and Thursday night, and Sunday morning.
So people are watching us most at those times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's different on all the apps. So I used to really enjoy, if I had a day off, putting up, because I love to write, and I'd write a post that was something important to me that happened during the week and put it on Facebook. Now we just load all of ours into one app and it just filters out to TikTok and Facebook or whatever. And our audience on Facebook is like this big now because the Facebook audience doesn't like what the Instagram audience
Facebook
like.
rule.
It does. I like Facebook, and the TikTok doesn't like the Instagram. And so it has actually leveled out.
I'm the same person.
I actually don't know. But if I had time, TikTok would get one post, Instagram would get another, and Facebook would get its own. And if I also had time, I would have a little scroll and see what my friends are doing. But unless my friends tag me and stuff, I actually very rarely have time to even comment or look at my friends. But that brings me to, if you have time for a scroll, Greg loves a good scroll, and comment on your friends' posts and that sort of stuff, because that will get your post moving a little bit. That will help the algorithms find you. If you just scroll and don't comment, don't like, don't post, unfortunately, your page will stay fairly dormant.
So if I'm scrolling and I start liking things that I like instead of just looking at and going past, if I start liking more things
and share them,
my page will become more popular.
Yeah, because
that's insane.
Not necessarily more popular, but for instance, a lot of people appreciate you commenting, so then they'll comment back on your post, which will get your post active.
Right. I am a bit lazy doing that stuff. I tend to sort of check up on what you've done.
Yeah, we know, Greg.
Well, and I do use, Facebook was used a lot as employers to actually check out
people.
Well, to stalk people, to check out employees.
But we would say our engagement has halved, at least halved, since I haven't had time to post through 3 separately, which I haven't done for about 5 years. So if I had time, that would be my suggestion, to actually post to your demographic for what they like. But I don't think everybody has time to do that. So that brings us to well, it's really easy once you get used to it. So that brings me to what to post.
What to post? Well, I find shit you can share, like just press share. That's my posting. I share stuff that looks pretty good.
Well, it's nice to have a good mix of everything. So a beautiful, shiny photograph of a horse dressed nicely, at a show or whatever, that's always nice to look at. I enjoy a nice photograph. And some people prefer photographs to reels as well. A nice shiny reel of your horse doing something pretty is always nice. Sharing something that you found really heartfelt or educational is it something good?
So like one you tell us the other day about Jesus and the dinosaur.
Don't you dare repeat that. Oh my God. It's very funny.
I'll see if I can find it. I'll share it all.
And that was in the days when I did share it, and I got in a lot of trouble from the Christians about God and the dinosaurs.
It's
Jesus,
funny.
actually.
Yeah, it's funny,
but that was in the days before I am partnered with sponsors who, in my contract, I am not supposed to get into heavy Christian political views or swear too much. They are sponsoring a horse ride. Obviously, horse rides swear, right? That's how we're raised. We have too many dogs. We usually have a cigarette in our hand and we swear too much. But yeah, the dogs bit definitely. Cigarettes are long gone. The cigarettes are over, unfortunately.
So making it still grow more from that, I guess, a new thing that I'm starting to look at now, which I'm trying to help Shell with, is for me, this whole social media and computers is very new into our generation.
Oh my gosh, it is for me too. I still remember saying to you, I don't even know how to switch this thing on.
Year 9, computer studies in high school. We had 2 computers in our classroom, and we got that once a week. My first real job away from horse training was in real estate. And I sat down, I was given my desk, and I sat down, there was a big desktop in there, and I sat there for about 10 minutes, and the guy come up and he goes, "How you going?" I said, "Good, show me how to turn it on." I didn't know how to turn the computer on. But this whole thing is evolving pretty quick, and what I try to help with a lot now behind the scenes business is the monetizing of trying to make it work. What we've come across is subscribers, is trying to get people to subscribe, because the more subscribers you actually have, those couple of cents always add up a little bit as well. So it's we're not talking millions of dollars here. Because we're not in America. In America, it's a lot easier to get a lot more money out of your social media. And good luck to them. They've done a really good job over there.
It does help to pay the bills, all those little things.
It does help. There's not much coming in, but there's little bits coming in. So the more people subscribe to things, and of course, that's why we're starting the whole subscription thing up, is to try and make it so it's not about trying to make a fortune out of it. We're not trying to make a living out of having subscribers there. as such. It's about trying to say to people, look, if you just pay us a couple of dollars here and there, that helps to go towards doing days off like this where we can actually do things. So it's an interesting concept having subscribers, but it also keeps you in contact, I feel, a lot better because, for example, a lot of the videos Shell does is purposely aimed at those subscriber groups, and they're the only people who can see those videos because she says to them, well, you've given me something. Yeah, well, and she says she's made this, she calls them, is it a sub club you've called your little group now, which is growing all the time, and she'll do a video and it'll be for the sub club, and the sub club's starting to get a bit more communicating in between each other, and they're starting to throw questions at us a bit more, we'd like to see this. So now we start to have our videos based around what we've been asked for rather than just trying, think, what am I going to do a video of today? Oh, well, Fiona asked yesterday.
Well, I still have a list that is 6 A4 pages, and the rest is still actually on my phone, so I can't even transcribe it all across. So I haven't got any left videos.
Oh, there's always tons, but it's nice to be able to give back a little bit and say, okay, well, such and such asked for this video, because then you're actually helping a person straight away. And you won't be just helping one person, you're helping probably 90% of people are on that subscription list anyway of that video you send out, because we don't do stupid videos. We don't go, can you show us, Rochelle, how many beers you should drink before you hop on for a dressage test?
No, if anybody wants to ask me that, I will demonstrate that very happily.
But good questions, and it's interesting because quite often Shell will say, oh, today we've got to do such a video because someone's asked for this. So it's always nice to get that and think, oh, someone's paying attention here.
Well, it's nice because the community are then feeling like they're not so alone, and the sub club is more private. It's not private, but it is more private than open socials. So if you want to pay to be part of the subscription club, you're going to be less likely to be a nasty troll. So I'm going to be a little more open on there than I am, and at the end of the day, as we become older and less able to sit on horses for 12 hours a day, and, Greg's getting a new hip tomorrow. So good luck, Greg.
Second one, it'd be good.
So Greg.
I'll be back to riding in 6 months. I'm actually going to return to riding.
Are you?
Yep. Guess what I'm taking out?
What?
Guess what I'm going to do?
Cutting.
No.
Race horses. Raining. Okay. Well, that's news to me.
I'm going to buy myself a metallic cat filly.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's
if anyone's got one out there and they like me to take on cheaply.
But I think our days of being in the saddle all day long are over. Greg did, I don't know if you know, but Greg he and his dad were camp drafters, and then Greg did pre-training in racehorses. So I don't know, when I didn't do pre-training, I did track work, but we'd ride 15.
She got them after we fixed them.
Well,
depending on your pre-training center, ours were pretty good.
It did really depend on that. And some horses were just mental, but we'd ride 15 horses in an hour and a half, 2 hours, something.
We did 15 to 20 a day.
Yeah. So you really wear your bodies out. So social media being a vehicle to earn money is very important for us, because we're getting to the age where we can no longer rely on horses being sent in training. We still do it occasionally, but I'll only take long-term horses, and Greg hasn't had a horse in training to ride for a long time now. So I think really have a look at, when you're setting up your social media, what do you want it to achieve? Because that will actually change a little bit how you approach it and what you want to create.
I've looked upon it as being that we're now at a point in our careers where we've sort of gone past the trainer's point as such. Not saying we're too overtrained, we still train, but I believe now we've earned and learnt so much from the industry that we're now educators. And, some of my very good friends throughout the world, top trainers that I've been associated with over the years, have always said to me, Greg, never stop learning, which I still to this day never stop learning.
Absolutely.
But I feel now we're educators in the industry. And so if we can give back a bit.
We're very wide.
And social made it a lot easier to do that, is, give back. We do, feed things, we do training things. So it's about, I think nowadays as educators, social media has been allowing us to give more of that back in the industry. Whereas once before, what would you do? You would have sent a fax, 20-mile long facts of this is how you do it, Fred. Fix them up. Whereas now,
social media has really brought everybody together. As much as it's very bad for you with the scrolling, it can be bad for you with the trolling. There's all sorts of reasons.
Goes through your phone battery real quick.
Does, but it's also been an amazing way of bringing communities together if it's used correctly. I mean, that's why we started it, and it's had really good benefits. And building it into the empire that it's slowly becoming, and it is definitely feeding us these days. Now that we've done it's a very targeted, quite easy process to do.
It is very targeted. If you have X amount of hours in the day and don't want to sleep a lot, usually, you can do it.
You can make it happen in a half an hour a day. You don't have to. The only reason we do it is because we actually have not just Rochelle, but we have Equine Evolution and King Andrew's Rider Training, which is the whole company as a whole has several buckets.
Yeah,
and I'm only one of them.
If you want to do something right and do it properly, you've got to spend the hours. You can't just think to get on there once a week and put a quick post on and stuff like that. You've got to do even
marketing.
She'll spend hours doing creations. Like you said before, she's got 6A4 pages of stuff, the video. That's just one little list of stuff she's got there. She has notepads stuffed away in different parts of the house.
For sponsors and for then just the sub club, and then for people that are desperate. Like there's this gorgeous girl at the moment, and every time she canters, she loses a stirrup, and she's really upset about it. And she really needs some help. So that
she needs tiny tot straps. I saw in the States. No, in the States of the day, they had tiny tots showing, and they had straps on.
No, that's not what she needs. Oh. She needs to learn to spread her toe in her boot. So
she needs some riding lessons.
Yeah, she just needs just some hints. She's in Germany. Belgium. Sorry.
Belgium. Somebody in Belgium has asked you advice as to how to
That's it. It brings the whole world together. And every now and then, for me personally, if we didn't run a business, I don't believe that I would use social media. I would probably just use it for my writing or my poetry every now and then because I don't love scrolling. I don't really want to know what everyone's doing. I love to know what my friends are doing. I have I've toyed a few times with the idea of just having a page just for me and my friends where, I can get away with saying things that are a little bit more personal, but I don't know. I don't have time.
Well, it's certainly changed, hasn't it? I mean, you think back about the original Facebook account was designed as a communication thing for university students. You look at how now it's become this multi-gazillion dollar business that businesses now feed off. It's a really amazing.
Oh, no, one of my friends said, she's university educated and so is the father of a baby. And she said, my daughter's going to become an influencer. I was like, what? Say what? I didn't know that. It's now a career to be an influencer, and it is good money. So understand. And if you do want to help to learn it, I'm halfway through writing the course because to make something complex, simple, first of all, you have to have a thorough knowledge of it. But then you have to have a very strategic approach to it. So I'm just taking a little bit more time and then I will put that on our website to help you a little bit.
That'd be an interesting course because it's...
Will you take it, Greg?
Well, I don't really have to because I've lived it and I've seen it come from the grassroots. Like this is getting dirty feet and hands straight away.
What it is the opposite. It's the first job I've ever had that I didn't get dirty hands.
And it is how to grow it from zero. It's not about stepping into something that's already made. It's not about buying into something. This is going to be how to grow it into such a big
and just swapping some time.
Swapping time and making your time valuable. She is the time manager professional.
Yeah. Well, you know that saying, ask a busy person to do something and you get it done because I'm organised and uber organised.
Except for when she's in the middle of doing a couple of things at once and you ask for something, she often just doesn't even hear you. It just goes straight on top of her head, which is interesting. I've even tested it sometimes and I've started conversations about weird stuff.
I hear you and then I come back to you in about an hour and we'll just say... Look, it's difficult to
You can be halfway through a conversation with her, right, guys? Halfway through a conversation. She's working on something. She just switches off. She's gone. You go, there's no coming back until, she's finished that one job she's doing. It's usually something to do. She'll be like, I just had to finish that off for that post to do tomorrow. I'm like,
Yeah, but that's like, as a writer as
me.
well, there's times when I am in a zone and thinking and creating. So if Greg wants to ask me about the beans for dinner, do I really want to talk about the beans for dinner when I'm in the middle of,
Yeah, but then when there's no beans served up for dinner, she's like, where are the beans? I'm like, you didn't say you wanted beans. She said, you asked me like an hour ago, I answered you. I said, you never answered me.
Yeah, but this
There
is
was-
how
and it's
social
like-
media can end up making you feel like you've got ADHD, because everybody around you thinks you're just scrolling, because everybody else around you does just scroll. When I have my phone in my hand, it is a work tool. I'm answering emails, messages, WhatsApp, creating a post, whatever. I'm not just sitting there. But I do think that it's really important when you're in a family environment. My phone is switched off at about 6 o'clock at night, and it is not switched back on until about 4 o'clock in the morning, unless we've had a big day and I've still got work to do.
She said, oh, she could still cook dinner then, couldn't she?
Like, yeah.
6 o'clock? No, let's try. She's actually working, guys, usually most nights until around 7. And then even then, she will then just quickly check on any posts through the night. Not through the night, but up until sort of maybe 8 o'clock. And then she won't touch her phone until somebody rings her at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, and we teach a lot overseas now, and so of course the time difference. So I try to do a couple before we head down to stables, and then usually start coming up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we teach early in the morning and late in the afternoon for our overseas clients. But it's amazing to have clients in the UK,
I
and
find it
Germany.
mind-blowing. Like that lady who was teaching in Canada that day, and what was it, minus...
Oh, that was funny. And
Middle of summer here,
and
it was minus... It was just...
the phone kept cutting out. That was the first one because it was snowing. She wasn't expecting snow.
Yeah, it was so cold.
So I guess the moral of that story is make sure if you have an online lesson, it's not going to be snowing anytime soon.
It certainly made the world a lot smaller place. Social
Yeah,
media.
yeah, it is. It's really special, but it can eat you alive if you don't approach it with the right attitude.
Yeah, you certainly have to be strong.
Yeah. And if you're not strong, you'll get strong quick enough.
Be prepared to turn the other cheek.
Oh, well, you've got
That's hard.
4 cheeks in total, haven't you? Depends which cheek you mean.
Pretty hard though, isn't it? You know, some people backlash at trolls or stuff.
And there's no point. There's literally no point. If a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion as you, if they're going to troll you, they don't like you. And you have to be okay with people not liking you. You absolutely have to. I could not care less. I can't do anything about it. It doesn't bother me. It did in the beginning because I like people and I couldn't understand it. But it's been a big growth.
Yeah, but the first couple of times you got trolled and it was just like, you know, here's a person that's trying to do something for the good of the world. And she got trolled. It's like, and she was so upset about it. And then, you know, over time I go, oh, look, it's just their opinion. As she said, you know, the person's told they just have still their own opinion, whatever the saying was she used. So you can't change their minds, guys. You really just need to just ignore it and just get along with life.
If somebody's rude enough to put a rude comment on your post, they're really not worth dealing with.
No.
Just block them, delete the comment, don't even bother. If somebody has an actual opinion, then the way that they word it will even have a little more education and politeness. And then I'm happy to interact. I'm always happy for a healthy debate. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Really good for you. You gain a more thorough knowledge of the way that you feel or your system or whatever it is that you're talking about by discussing it more. So I like that. But it's I think one of the biggest parts of the course is how to deal emotionally with putting yourself out there, because that some people, you know, will make a post, put it up and then quickly delete it if it doesn't get enough likes, you know, and because they're afraid of people judging them. And social media puts you straight into that glass fishbowl of people judging you. But it depends. If you're doing it because you want to look fabulous and get famous, you're going to really struggle with that side of it. If you're doing it because it's a business, then it's a lot easier to come to terms with the dark side.
Well, you know, you look at all of, you know, the famous movie stars and stuff, and, you know, some of them have got social media platforms, but not even without social media. People either love a good movie star or they hate them.
I know, it's like, for no reason.
And that movie star will keep on making movies. I mean, John Wayne, he made lots of movies. Love or hate him, and a lot of
can't hate John Wayne.
Some people did.
Did they? But I know when we were watching videos yesterday, so when it rains, we'll come up and do an hour or two study of watching the top riders. And then somebody said, oh, that rider, she's obviously got a lot of money, and I've heard she wrecked a few horses and that sort of stuff. I think that judging somebody is an immediate, to me, way of avoiding thinking. So instead of thinking, why is that horse's head coming, up and down? It's obviously got a lack of engagement and push into the bridle. And there was actually quite a deep thought process, because it had a really odd way of going. It was almost laying behind. But it sounded front. It was very odd, and you actually needed to watch it.
So it was an assumption that trainer was hard on horse.
Well, the assumption was that she was rich and entitled and could ride. And she was incredibly beautiful and incredibly young, and the horse was very beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't matter whether she's this or that. I don't think that you have the right, if you don't know somebody, to judge them. And unfortunately, when you judge somebody out loud like that, for the people who are a little bit wiser in the room, that's an immediate judgment on you. So when you judge out loud, just be careful, because anybody who knows anything about human nature, whatever judgment you decree on that person is the judgment that you have on yourself. So we are very, very much that we try to be just kind, I guess, is the best way to look at it, to everybody. And just because somebody's a rich movie star or a fabulous, good-looking young rich rider or whatever, doesn't give you the right to instantly assume you know who they are or what they do.
Well, that's very true. It's jealousy. It's human nature. It's just jealousy if that wealthy,
some
rich
people are
young
more
person.
prone to feeling jealous.
Yeah, and it is terrible. But the interesting thing on social media with sometimes that sort of stuff is when someone comes on there and goes, "Oh, well, that person, they can't really ride. They're this and that," and you actually see a lot of retaliation against that person, which I guess is what you're saying, that they've made this comment without knowing the person personally, and so actually that reverses back on them in a lot of ways.
Well, you hope so, that people stand up for each other. But, wishing for a world where human beings wouldn't be so human is probably very idealistic of me. But anyway, we digress. Making money on social media is like anything worth having. It's hard work, but it is, to me, a very necessary part of making a living as an athlete or a horse trainer. You need to have it as a shop window. You need it for branding, and you need it to sell your product, which may be your lessons or your book or whatever it is. And for a horse rider, you actually need to have quite a few buckets, because, most of our lessons this week are cancelled. The weather all around the world is really rubbish at the moment. It's too hot in Europe, and it's too wet in Australia, and it's...
Or nearly a cyclone. We found them at a low, an East Coast low, which was like a cyclone off the East Coast.
Yeah, but people are a lot more online. So we've been watching their videos of them competing and giving them critiquing on that. The shop's been a lot busier because people have been online and inside out of the coal. So by having several different income streams, we're a lot safer. And social media has been absolutely instrumental in supporting the income streams.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if the social media wasn't there, we wouldn't be doing as many clicks. We wouldn't be doing online. The shop.
You do more clinics than I do now.
Yeah, well, you can't be fake.
It's a bit of a sellout.
But, certainly social media presence makes those things grow. It's amazing how many clinics I go to, and people say, "Oh, you see me there." We're at a vet clinic one day, and we're waiting there for the vets shutting away, and there's people waiting to bring their horse in as well. And as we walk back out towards the car park, they sort of come over grinning and going, "Oh, we watch you on social media." To her, not me. "We watch you on social media. We follow all your things." It's like, okay, she's got some fan club.
Oh, Greg loves it. We love it when people ask me for my autograph. It makes me really, really shy.
Bit famous.
No, I don't feel that way, but I don't think anybody does. I think as long as you stay really grounded.
But I think what it does show to me is that we're actually on the right track, because what Michelle's trying to portray on social media is a loving, who she is. She wants to help the world. She wants to make the world a nicer place to be. She wants to make horses happy. She wants to make any animal happy. She would take care of any animal. If she could have 1,000 dogs, she would, and she would take care of every single one of them beautifully. But what she tries to portray is what's coming out. So, everything she does, whether it be for animals or when a sponsor comes along and says, "We'd like to work with you to promote our goods," she does it 1,000%, which I think is where now this course she's talking about, she's now in the middle of drawing up, which will release, will be a really interesting thing for a lot of people to read because it will give you something from the very start through to where she is now with all that stuff. Not just as a very, very good dressage trainer and coach. It's about how she's made success as being an online person as well as social media. In all of it, TikTok. God, there's so many of them now, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. And look, at the end of the day, for us,
is there somewhere you can just watch all of them on one? Like, is there an app that has them all on one?
No, I don't think so.
That'll save me after so much rubbish.
But you love scrolling. You can just scroll.
Right. I like scrolling on Facebook occasionally.
Do you know, if I have a scroll, I really enjoy TikTok because somehow, and when I was first learning to use it, I put in, I think, comedians and funny dog videos. So whenever I open it, it's so funny. I really enjoy that.
When she first found TikTok, you'd hear her
laughing. Do you know that one of the guy rolling down the hill? Oh my God, so funny.
It's like, she'll let us scroll TikTok.
And on Instagram, I follow all the saved whales and Africans saving, all the animals, and I follow the tree huggers. So also, if I get a chance to scroll on Instagram, I really enjoy it because it's educational and I'm loving it. So I get to embrace all the different parts of me. On Facebook, if I had more time, I'd love to see what all my friends are up to. I'd love to open it and see, another rider's doing well, or, they're having a problem and I can send them a private message or a happy birthday message. I need two of me, I think. I've got Greg cooking the meals. I need somebody to help me so I can.
I guess that's why some of these people do put on these social media companies to actually produce all this for them. But then,
it's not the same.
Well, this is what we're talking about before. It then becomes, it's not you on social media anymore.
I remember one of my friends put somebody on, and he
put a girl on, which is even worse. So he went from blokey to chick flick.
What's your horse's favorite color? And I thought, that's obviously a young girl with a digital marketing degree, and it was not authentic. And I laughed because I thought it was cute. But I think a lot of people thought, well, if it's not you, then I don't want to see it, because people want to see the real you. And as much as there's a big part of me that only Greg and Andy know, and, my 3 best girlfriends, what you're seeing is still me. It's not a curated version of me. Like, I don't give a shit what my horse's favorite color is either. I do care what his favorite treat is. Or maybe I do care what his favorite.
We are certainly becoming more and more authentic, though, I think, on social media. So, because we've realised over time now that the more honest you are about how your day-to-day stuff even is, the more people like that sort of stuff, because they're getting to know you as a person.
That's true. Because one of my clients said to me, you would get trolled a lot less if you sometimes showed some of the struggles that you're having, because she's here all the time. And she says that we should get the ABC in to do a reality TV series of all the crap that we put up with as horse trainers and interesting people that we deal with, and that we're at the mercy of the weather and the animals' temperaments and all that kind of stuff. And I said, do you really think people want to see that? We try and keep it fairly positive, but we do leaving it out, the positives and the educational, and that, with occasionally saying, we are finding this really difficult and this is how we deal with it.
Maybe I could just come around with my phone without you girls knowing and just do live Facebook ones and just have it going of a day, like some real stuff.
Like a real Housewives of Ebenezer.
No? What
would we call that?
When they start, I'll just put on a live feed at Facebook.
It would be the most brilliant series. It would be so incredibly watchable, because
I don't think it'll last long.
I don't know. I think you'd get ripped apart, but I guess your phone would still be right. As long as your phone was still filming, if you go sort of torn apart by some of the wealthier clients, I guess. It's all worth the sacrifice for our viewers, Greg.
Yeah. Give it a go. Let's give it a go.
All right, beautiful. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to click subscribe so that when a new video goes up, it'll just send you a little bell and tell you it's coming.
Does it?
It does. It does. And this week, for everybody that subscribes on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, we are offering them a free lifetime access to our e-learning platform, which we thought was wonderful for everybody to, become be,
it's
be
a-
part
it's-
of our community.
It's a bit of a thing, everyone said to us when we first started doing the whole e-learning platform program, they're like, oh, well, it's just another business you guys are building. But it was more than that. Because
way more than
when
that.
Shell first had that in mind, it was all about, it was going to be free. Like it was just to give to everybody. And we said, and somebody said, well, no, it's a business. You've got to make it into a monetary
Because it
type thing.
costs an enormous amount to build
costs
it.
an
Like the
enormous amount to build.
website itself was so expensive.
But what we're doing is trying to show people, well, we're doing it trying to help people. And we are still prepared to give stuff away.
The embryo that it was created from was, and now they're the worst people in the world, and social media, again, has been an atomic bomb for them. But they were saying, you don't need to be afraid of your horse. You can be sitting on your lounge, eating a donut, and we will cure your fear of horses. And I came out to Greg and I said, look at this shit. What unbelievable way to get people hurt.
And I'm thinking, how can we copy that and make millions like they did?
It offended me.
It was
because
very offensive.
if you are afraid of your horse, there's usually a bloody good reason. And neuro-linguistic programming, I've heard great things about it, but I really don't feel there's 3 different kinds of fear. And yes, it would work for one of them. But the other 2 need some serious workshopping and systematic approach to control the horse's behavior and to really, really make sure that you're taking care of your well-being before you just say, everything's okay.
No length of sitting on a lounge is going to fix that.
No.
So that's what started her off a little bit.
Yeah, that's why we created the program. And feeling like growing up in horses, I was just constantly bouncing from one shift decision to another and thinking, I wish I could have somebody who could just help me just pull it all together. And as much as I've learned from all around the world and many different systems, and they're all good, I feel like ours is just, your solid basics. Where, okay, no, we've never had the money for me to compete internationally, but you never say never. But if you give me any horse, I can augur, we can make it happy, we can produce it to a top level, and we can make it safe eventually, and I think a big part of teaching people is to teach them that when you commit to a horse, you don't half commit to that horse. You commit entirely to it, because if you don't, the journey's going to be really, really difficult.
You're either in or you're out. There's 150%, or you're out. Just quit before you just. There's no point.
Or I find a horse that's a little more amenable to it. But if you're going to be taking a horse through to a top level, there's going to be times when the going gets really, really tough, because there are no perfect horses. So that's why we created it. And that's why for the next week, we're offering it for free. And also because we want to build, again, we're teaching you how to run a business. We want to build a following. So our podcast is brand new and our YouTube is brand new. And so by offering that, people are thinking, oh, yay, it costs you nothing to subscribe. So it helps us and it helps you.
Definitely. See you
All right,
next time.
guys. Don't forget to click subscribe.
Thanks so much for listening, and don't forget in the comments to tell us what you need help with.
We hope you join us next time around as well.